Time now for us to talk markets, and for that I'm joined by Mia Creer. She is a Director and Portfolio Manager at Creer International. Mia, so good to see you as always.
Nice to see you, Gugu.
Awesome. Maybe let's pick up on the general market sentiment. It does seem as though today and yesterday were pretty optimistic days, not only locally but abroad as well.
Yes, it was. We did see a big move though last night in the US out of Apple, and it's now trading below its 200 rand moving average. So it seems like the whole China slowdown is actually filtering through to some of the US stocks, and Apple is actually now only the third largest most popular sort of phone company when it comes to China at this stage. Yeah.
Sure. Do you think those dynamics might change though, especially given the economic data in China? And
well, yes. I listened to some analysts as well today, and you know, everyone thinks this is actually a good chance to buy a stock like Apple. And if you've got a longer sort of time horizon, then you should always use market downturns when it doesn't make so much sense to buy a share if you think it's reasonable.
Coming closer to home, though, MTN out with results, disappointing expectations slightly. But when you speak to Sifiso Dabengwa, it sounds like he has a game plan in place despite the current volatilities.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Once again, it was influenced very strongly by the South African rand that actually performed stronger than most of the other African countries where MTN does business. So it was, I think it was only, I think there was one currency that was benefiting MTN's results locally. Unfortunately, that came through in the results quite strongly. They did grow their sort of client base by just over 3%, which isn't so big. They had more data sales. All of that we expected in the sense of, I think, about 87%. Same story that we saw from Vodacom. But unfortunately, they had a headline earnings per share downturn of about just over 10%, and sales of less than 5%, or 5% less than the previous 6 months. So, you know, it's just a bit of a tough trading environment for them. I also think over the next 2 years, if the Competition Commission approves the deal between Telkom and Vodacom and Newtel, it'll have some effect on MTN and all the other sort of players in the market, and I don't think it'll be in the benefit of them, but rather in Vodacom's.
We also had an update about Telkom and BCX as well today, though.
So that's still on the cards, still you know, trying to do that deal. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But yeah, some movement there. The big thing is that these companies, we all know that they've got sort of diminishing margins, and it's difficult for them to make a lot of money these days with all the regulations that hamper their earnings. But they're still going to grow. They're going to be sort of lower margin businesses that still grow because people in Africa definitely use handsets more often than sort of infrastructure when it comes to communication.
Before we actually get into another company that has an influence on the telco sector, which is Blue Label Telecoms, we're going to play a quick insert now of an interview that I did with Sifiso Dabengwa of MTN, who was speaking to me at the results presentation today. And I asked him basically about potential opportunities that the company will explore regarding AfriHost, the Internet of Things, as well as the mobile bank opportunities that are presented to the organization. Let's take a look.
Look, I think the competitive situation is probably not as aggressive from a pricing point of view as it was. I think the fact that there's now much more stable pricing is good for the industry. We believe that at the end of the day, we just need to be able to offer a good quality network and good quality services at prices that offer value to customers, and we'll be able to sustain our competitive position.
Are you looking to leverage on the AfriHost opportunity to delve into the Internet of Things further?
No, absolutely. I mean, we have started rolling out an Internet of Things platform, which will primarily be there to support our M2M services and to support our customers who require M2M services. AfriHost has been a good acquisition and is also helping us with respect to the SME segment.
Maybe if you can tell us slightly more about that, just how many more SMEs are you hoping to bolster, given especially the tough economic landscape in South Africa where confidence in the SME sector is not too good at the moment?
Well, their capabilities are really around providing services to the SME market, and they've shown over the years that they're very good at that. So the issue for us is to be able to expand their capability and expand the number of SMEs and also the different areas in which the SMEs work in to be able to support them.
If we turn our attention onto Nigeria, you did allude to the fact that it is a very cautious outlook and extensive capex rollout there, but the mobile money opportunity, how are you hoping to capitalize on that even further?
That we think is a great opportunity in the sense that formal banking penetration is still quite low. Obviously, we do have some regulatory challenges in that the way that the model is being rolled out there is that you have to have a banking partnership and customers have to have a banking relationship as well. So it's the rollout will probably be slower than other markets where we don't have this kind of restriction, but we still think that it's a great opportunity.
Is that the long-term view for MTN, especially given its Pan-African appeal?
Absolutely. I think financial services in the continent is going to be a great opportunity for us in financial services and e-commerce.
Well, that was the MTN Chief Executive giving us more details on the numbers. Looking at the share price, though, closed at what, 207, slightly weaker, but I take it investors still playing it very cautious.
Yes, yeah, it's down from the highs we saw, earlier. I think it was end of last year, beginning of this year. But yeah, and I think significant today's move. I think it was sort of in line with what people expected. The news wasn't too big of a shock.
On Brait, though, they came out with a production update and all eyes on them, given the latest moves they've been making.
Yeah, so very interesting. They've performed exceptional over the last year. They had I think they're trading at, just short of 160 Rand a share. And last year, this time they were trading at about, I think the lowest over the last year was about just below 64 Rand a share. So that is, I think, like around 150% increase in the share price. Even if you look at the net asset value that they came out with today, there was a drastic increase over the last year, I think over 140%. Per share, and that was driven, by the sale of Pepkor. They had that big deal that they did. They actually concluded now the deal into Virgin Active, which we think is probably a very good move for them. People being more health conscious and them, moving into that sort of area where they can get a lot of information about people and they can actually, benefit from that in all different ways. So that's a good move for us. And then also, just the company as a whole has been one on the JSE that has actually always sort of, outperformed what people expected of them. And I don't think this is the end of it.
So you're quite bullish on Brait, clearly. I would take it you're still not bullish on resource players like the likes of Glencore.
Well, unfortunately, Gugu, we heard the bad news not bad, it's just what we also expected to happen at this sort of prices when you look at the commodities. But the possible closure of the Optimum mine and going into business rescue due to the fact that they locked in a deal with Eskom, where they supply Eskom with about 5.5 million tons of coal per year. And they say they do it at around a 250 Rand a ton loss, which amounts to 1.4 billion Rands of loss for them in a year. And that, when they also mentioned this in an article I got from Financial Times, where they said if they had to keep on and honouring this deal and they didn't restructure this deal, they were actually supplying coal to Eskom at 1 Rand a ton.
Sure.
So that sounds like a significant number, far below sort of market price, and I can actually understand that you're not making any money and that you can go out of business in that sort of way. And unfortunately in South Africa, that's sort of the trend at the moment. All the mines, a lot of the mines rather, are considering their positions and whether they are making money and whether they should keep on producing. And that is not a great space. Over the last 2 years, we've actually lost about 35,000 jobs when it comes to the mining industry in South Africa.
That's a lot, especially given the fact that we've got a high unemployment rate here.
True.
But Mia, just to get your view on the markets and where they're moving to at the moment, we hear the noise. It was Greece just a few weeks ago. Now China's really taken a dominant position. But we also can't forget the US, as we are expecting the non-farm payroll figures. Today we had ADP numbers. Are you paying attention to all this noise?
Well,
or you stick with the quality companies?
You need to, yeah. So even when you stick with the quality companies, you're always looking for opportunities. So I think something that I looked at today was the volatility of volatility, which sounds really strange, but that is literally the volatility of the VIX index. And if you see how erratic the VIX index have actually been trading lately, I mean, you can understand that this is a bull market, but it's sort of a flattish bull market with a lot of uncertainty and sort of moving in different directions in a short space of time. So yeah, it's an interesting market. I think there's opportunities, like we mentioned, in Apple at this moment. But yeah, it's something to keep your eye on, and don't be surprised if you know if we still see corrections here and there. But I think it'll just trot on with the US economy going forward slowly as it does.
Buckle up, huh, Clary?
Yep.
An interesting ride. Mia, thank you so much for your
Thanks.
time as always. That was Mia Creer, Director and Portfolio Manager at Creer International.